Good morning, class. On Tuesday, November 6, 2012, it was Election Day in America. All over the nation, people were voting for local, state, and presidential candidates, including me. It was my first time voting in a presidential election, and I was so excited to be able to vote and have my voice heard. My right to cast my vote that day was due to many civil rights leaders who fought tirelessly for the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. All American citizens have the right to vote. So today I will commemorate the Voting Rights Act and the civil rights leaders who fought to provide us with the freedom and responsibility to vote. First, let's focus on the signing of the Voting Rights Act. On August 6, 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed into law the Voting Rights Act. This law provided for federal intervention to secure African Americans' voting rights in the areas of the nation where they have been denied in the past. According to her book, The Voting Rights Act of 1965, Laurie Collier Hillstrom states that during the signing ceremony, President Johnson gave a moving speech about the power of the vote to break down the barriers of racial discrimination and injustice. President Johnson called the Voting Rights Act one of the most monumental laws in the entire history of American freedom. A number of leaders of the civil rights movement witnessed the signing of this landmark legislation. Among them were Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis. Martin Luther King Jr. founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. This organization of ministers was dedicated to tearing down the barriers of racial discrimination. King led a successful campaign of nonviolent resistance. These peaceful demonstrations included sit-ins and protest marches. King preached a message of racial equality. In his book, Freedom is Not Enough, Ronald W. Walters quoted King saying, "We have learned to fly the air like birds and swim the sea like fish, but we have not learned the simple art of living together as brothers." John Lewis, who is presently a United States Congressman representing Georgia, is most notable for the peaceful march he led from Selma to Montgomery on March 7, 1965. Once the marchers crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge on the outskirts of Selma, they were confronted by a large group of Alabama state troopers. The troopers ordered the marchers to disperse. The marchers refused and began to pray. The troopers launched a brutal assault on the marchers. Men, women, and children were injured. Lewis suffered a skull fracture on the day that became known as Bloody Sunday. In his book, The Voting Rights Act, Richard M. Vallely writes about the events of that Sunday. Vallely states that Lewis said, "We had a mission to do what we could to make things better for all mankind. It is because of these acts of bravery, devotion, and sacrifice that I was able to vote on November 6, 2012. So today I have taken this occasion to reflect back on the heroic struggles that led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act and to celebrate the landmark law that ensures that all Americans enjoy full and equal participation in the democratic process. Be heard in your community, state, and nation. Go out and vote. It is both a privilege that citizens should appreciate and an obligation that should be taken seriously. Your vote makes a difference in this nation."